Today we get to review improper fractions and mixed numbers. So our first set of notes is changing improper fractions to mixed numbers. Before we start, just a refresher, a improper fraction is a fraction in which the numerator, looks weird. Okay, there we go. In which the numerator is greater than the denominator. So an example might be like 17/4. Okay. So 17/4 is just an example. Anytime you have a numerator that is greater than the denominator, we call it an improper fraction. A mixed number is a number that is made up of a whole number and a fraction. So an example might be 3 5/8. Anytime you have a whole number with a fraction, that is a mixed number. So when I'm changing an improper fraction to a mixed number, I am dividing. Fractions are a division problem. It is one way to write a division problem. There are several ways to write a division problem. I'm going to do it over here off to the side. So one way to write a division problem is to do it like the typical way that we grew up seeing them in our younger years, like 12 divided by 6. Okay, so that's one way. You can also do 12 divided by 6, but you now can also have it like this as an improper fraction. That means 12 divided by 6. It is an improper fraction. It is in fraction form, but a fraction is a division problem. So you've got to get that in your mind, because remember when we changed fractions to decimals and to percents, and we talked about just dividing the top by the bottom? That's all you're doing. It is just a division problem. Okay, so when I am dividing fractions, it is very important to know where to place the numerator and the denominator when dividing. Okay, this line right here between the 9 and the 4, that fraction bar, that means divided by. So when you see a fraction and you see a fraction bar right here, that means 9 divided by 4. So how do I write that as a division problem? 9 divided by 4. Well, the bigger number will be in the box because you're dividing the numerator by the denominator. And with an improper fraction, the numerator will always be bigger. So the bigger number will always be in the box. But could you divide a regular fraction? Like, could you divide 1 by 4? Yeah, because now we know that we can add a decimal and a 0, and your answer can be less than 0. Okay. On this, we're not, because your numerator will always be bigger because it's improper. You can. I mean, not on these notes, no. You can see that we have one that has 60s. We won't have one in the 40s. Okay, so looking at this, these numbers down here are 3 ways that you can show division. So 9/4, 9/4, is the same as 9 divided by 4. And 9 divided by 4 is the same as this 9 divided by 4. They all are the same. They're all dividing the same things. Okay, so we have a tip. It says 9/4, 9 divided by 4. The top number falls to the right. So the top number falls to the right, then complete the sign. So I always say box the top. That's what I would always teach my students before, is just box the top. That way you know what number is always inside the box. Because whether it's an improper fraction or a regular fraction, if you're dividing it, you box the top, divide by the bottom number. Okay? All right, so let's look at one example using the steps given. So it says rewrite the fraction. So I'm going to use this fraction right here, 67 ninths. I'm going to rewrite it so that I have 67 divided by 9, and I'm going to divide it. So we all know 9 goes into 67 how many times? 7 times, which is 63. I subtract, and this time I'm going to write my remainder as a fraction because I'm trying to make it into a mixed number. I'm converting from an improper fraction to a mixed number. So we've done this before. This is something that you learned last year and maybe even the year before. I'm not real sure. But this would be written as 7 and 4 ninths. That is your mixed number equivalent to 67 ninths. So 9 goes into 67 7 whole times, and you would have your 4 ninths as your remainder. Okay, let's do a couple more examples. So over here to the bottom left, we have 10 thirds. So what I'm actually doing is 10 divided by 3. And what would that change to? 3 and 1/3. Your denominator won't change. 3 goes into 10. 3 whole times, you have 1 left over out of 3 still. Okay, the next one is going to look like this. 8 divided by 2, so it changes to 4. The next one would be 12 divided by 5, which changes to 2 and 2/5. Yes, very. Should be. And this should be a refresher. Quick review day. Okay. So our numerator is technically, when I'm dividing it, my dividend. And the denominator, or the bottom number, is actually my divisor. And I always have the dividend divided by a divisor. So when we're doing these, I want you using that math vocabulary. You know it, use it. Instead of top number, bottom number, numerator, denominator. Instead of inside, outside, dividend, divisor.
Ching chong, ching chong.
Okay. All right. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time going over the model part. If you want me to at some point, go over that with you so you understand. If you're a very visual person, I'm happy to go over that with you. But this is a review of improper to mixed numbers to improper, which is what we're about to go to right now. So go ahead and turn your page. Look at this, or is it next to each other in your journal? Yay! I like it when they're next to each other. Okay. So on this one for today, this is if I have a mixed number to an improper fraction. Because you can go back, you can go both ways. You can change an improper fraction to a mixed number, but there are times where you will need to change a mixed number to an improper fraction, like when you are multiplying or when you are dividing fractions. You have to have them as improper fractions so that you can do it. So that's why we're learning to go backwards as well. Right above my sink. Okay, the formula for converting mixed numbers to fractions. So the D is going to stand for the denominator. So when you see this D here, it's representing denominator. What do you think W number sign means?
Whole number.
Yeah. So then I'm going to multiply that by the whole number. Okay, then just wait just a few minutes until we're done. You can go to the nurse. Then I'm going to add, after I multiply denominator times whole number, I'm going to add it to the numerator. And that gives me the number that I will use on top. Do you see this little arrow here? Denominator times whole number plus the numerator equals my top number right here that will go over my denominator. So that's how I get to an improper fraction. So remember, whole number's here, denominator's here, numerator is here. It looks like this. Numerator denominator. Okay, now we have some steps, and they're called smack. We're going to smack it, which means we're going to start with the denominator for the S.
Will Smith.
Then we're going to multiply the denominator times the whole number. So let's actually test this out. So I'm going to start here. My denominator is 9. My whole number is 7. So when I multiply those together, it's 63. Now, step 3 is to add the numerator to the product. What is my numerator? I'm using this mixed number right here. 4. Guys, I'm waiting. We can get through this quick. Okay. Now I add this together, and I get 67. So this is going to be the total parts out of the denominator, which was what? 9. So 67 ninths is the improper fraction of the mixed number 7 and 4 ninths. Okay, so you're working backwards. It's kind of like a backwards C motion. So you start at the bottom, you go this way, and then you end at the top. You just multiply these, add these. That's your top number. The denominator does not change. Okay? All right. So the K means keep the denominator the same. Okay. Now we're going to convert 4 and 3/8. We're going to do this one together. I'm going to let you do the last two on your own, just so you can see one more example. Okay. So I'm going to start at the denominator. 8 times 4, which is 32, plus the 3, which is 35. The denominator doesn't change, so this is going to be 35/8. Remember, you kind of work at the bottom around to the top. Okay, try the last two, and then we'll check them.
Those are easy.
Start at the bottom, work around, times, then add. So 7 2/3 should be 23/3. And the last one should be 57/10. Okay, this skill is incredibly important for what is coming up, because we will be multiplying fractions next week, and we will be dividing fractions very soon thereafter. Okay, before Thanksgiving break, we will have done all of the fraction operations. Hopefully we will have a test over all of the fraction operations before we leave for Thanksgiving. That's the goal. In the next 2 weeks, we're going to be reviewing adding and subtracting, and then we're going to be adding and multiplying and dividing. Okay. All right, at the very bottom, you just have a reminder again. What do I fill these blanks in with? A fraction in which the numerator is greater than the denominator, 17/4. We're just going to stick with what we had. And a mixed number is a number that is made up of a whole number and a fraction, 3 5/8. So you have your definitions for those on both of your notes pages. Today, you just have a quick practice